and welcome to Besson Fridays at Home, a new regular series which Besson Musical Instruments are going to be putting out every Friday night, and which is going to consist of lots and lots of chat in and around the brass band world. I'm Philip Harper, and I'm joined by my regular colleagues, Stephen Mead and Roger Webster, who are both Besson ambassadors. Good evening to you, gents.
Good evening, Phil. Good evening, Roger.
Good evening, Phil. Good evening, Steve. Good evening, Phil.
And the plan is that every week we'll be joined by a special guest. And tonight I'm very pleased to say that our special guest will be the principal cornet player of the band which I conduct, the Corey Band. And that is, of course, Tom Hutchinson. Good evening to you, Tom.
Phil, hi, Steve. Hi, Roger.
Hi.
Hi, Tom. Nice to see you.
You too.
Great to have you.
So nice to have you all here. The plan is to put out a broadcast like this every couple of weeks on a Friday night. And we've got some real star guests lined up for you coming up. For example, David Childs is on the roster. We'll be able to hear from him. John Barber, the trombonist from Foden's. We can hear from Bastien Baume and Alexis Demailly. We can hear from baritone player Mike Kavanagh from Black Dyke, of course. Phil Cobb, who's the principal trumpet of the LSO, as we all know. Owen Farr, amazing tenor horn player. Loads and loads of special guests are lined up for you and us to chat to every Friday night, every 2 weeks. So let's get straight down to business for this Friday night. And of course, we're in a rather strange time at the moment with the coronavirus lockdown still in place all over the world. And as you can see, all of us here this evening are broadcasting from our various homes. How are we all enjoying the lockdown?
Roger, go first. What do you reckon?
Well, I'm enjoying the weather. I'm enjoying the freedom. I'm not really enjoying the DIY. I'm not very good at it. So I've been doing a lot of fence painting. Been doing more practice than I've ever done in my life, which is annoying everybody. And I'm really not enjoying sort of fixing things around the house, because I usually fix them, then break them, have to buy more bits, and then make a list of things that are going to be fixed post lockdown. So yeah, it's mixed at the moment. What about you, Steve?
Well, I mean, it was just the shock of just losing everything from the diary. That was the first thing I had to deal with. You know, things, Australia trip to China, various trips to Italy, and then working out how I was going to use the time. So like you, Roger, I've done some DIY. I jet washed the entire house, but certainly the drive front and back, and then really got down to try to use the time wisely. You know, I started making videos with friends all around the world, and you know, obviously like you, Phil, with the Corey Band, tried to start some online stuff that made us practice, that made us, you know, not lose the faith about playing and enjoying making music. I mean, and that's kind of been the way it's been since then, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you've still managed to keep up some teaching, Tom, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm still teaching at the Royal Welsh College of Music and Drama online, thankfully. I've been doing some masterclasses with the Birmingham Conservatoire as well as the Royal Northern just last week. But it's a really strange time that we can't play. You know, for me, I've been playing for probably 22 years now, consistently, most days, and certainly most weeks within band practice for that period of time. And for all that to stop so suddenly is quite a shock to the system. And yeah, I agree with Roger. I'm kind of almost doing more practice than usual, because I just don't want to lose the skills that I've spent so long working towards. So there is a little bit of you know, trepidation into how much time you can afford to take off during this lockdown period, if in fact you do. But yeah, I'm just trying to keep on top of the basics, and yeah, I'm doing a lot of walking, a lot more walking than usual, but a lot less golf than usual, which is pretty frustrating as well.
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear, Tom, that you're doing more practice than usual, in which case I really can't wait to hear you once we get back to band. It's going to be amazing. And of course, something you referred to there, Steve, about the suddenness of it all, really. That's the thing that kind of really hit me in my role as the conductor of the Corey Band. I mean, because the lockdown happened on a Monday night, which is a band practice night for us, as it is for many bands in the UK. And I can remember the Prime Minister making the announcement that the country was in lockdown at about 5 o'clock, which is usually the time I leave for band. So I was sitting in the lounge with my coat on and my shoes on and I was with my bag ready, all ready to go out, and suddenly it's like, oh no, you won't be going anywhere, and that was the end. It's so sudden. And so having an idea of, as you've kind of already started to talk about, really having an idea of what you're going to do now to fill the time. And certainly if you're part of a band or leader of a band like I am, then how to keep that band kind of functioning, operating, staying together, motivated, if you like, through the lockdown period has been a bit of a challenge. But having said that, I mean, at Corey, we've innovated a fair amount to keep ourselves going. So I'm sure some of you have seen some of the lockdown videos which we've been doing, and we really started work on that on the Tuesday morning. It was, I woke up on Tuesday morning, the diary's completely empty. What should we do now? So kind of invented some new projects, really, and that started for us the day after the lockdown.
I think, Phil, that's also been an inspiration for many bands since then. You know, that famous Chitty Chitty Bang Bang video, and then it went on TV, and then suddenly everyone was like, so how do we do that? And people became video making experts over the next 4 weeks, you know, things that we'd never done before, you know.
It's kept people entertained as well, Phil. It's not just motivation, you've kept people entertained as well. They've been looking forward to the next one coming out. And I think you've not been afraid to take yourselves too seriously. You've done it high quality, without doubt, but you've also sort of sent yourselves up a little bit and made everybody smile, which I think's been absolutely so well received. It's unbelievable. I think you've gathered a lot of new fans by doing no concerts. It's amazing what you've done.
Yeah, well, there was twofold, really. The reason that we started the project, one was, like you say, to keep the band motivated, but keeping connection with the audience is so important. And I think, like you say, we don't know how long lockdown's going to be, but anything we can invest now during lockdown in keeping our audiences will mean we stand a much better chance once we come out of lockdown of actually getting some people back to our concerts again. You know, even if there's only 10 people allowed in a concert all at once, or whatever the rules are going to be. So yeah, that was definitely part of it. And it was certainly, I mean, the first few weeks of lockdown for Corey were really quite exciting, sort of seeing this come together, and the great media coverage which we had as well, and going on the BBC TV and ITN. And I mean, there was one day which was just, I mean, literally crazy for us. But so it's really, really good that we sort of managed to inspire people to do their own videos. We've seen, I mean, dozens of fantastic examples now from all sorts of different bands from right across the globe as well. And some people are getting really, really good at putting them together, aren't they?
Oh yeah. Have you enjoyed it, Tom, as a player?
I'm not the most gifted with technology. I've got to be honest with you. So it's been enjoyable, but it is a challenge to get. I think when we first got these lockdown videos, you had to have like your iPad there, and then you got your laptop there, and then you're recording with your phone, and then you press the record button, you get halfway through, and you realise you haven't pressed the record button, so you got to go back. But it is a lot of fun, and you know what? It's a good way of just keeping your lip in as well. I know that some of the players from the band have been working on the a cappella app. I think Glyn and Helen have been doing quite a lot on that app, and it's just, I've done a few videos myself, and it just keeps you entertained. It's it's just a way to kill another hour.
Yeah. I think we've got a video, Roger, of your students at the RNCM. Is that right?
Yes. One of the many they've been making recently.
Do you want to introduce it?
Well, this is an arrangement of Amazing Grace that's for 10 cornets, but only 4 of them took part.
Yes, it's interesting the different technologies available, isn't it? And I know I use the same technique as you of delegation. So we've got a guy in Corey Band who does it all, and I know he's had a really steep learning curve with all of this, and now he's got different modules which will help tweak the sound here, there, and everywhere, which is why they're getting better and better. But I do think, and I'm sure you'd all agree, that it's no substitute for live performance, really, is it? We're all just really itching for the moment when we can finally get back in the room with some musicians alongside us, so we can hear properly. That sort of thing. It's no substitute, is it?
Yeah, that's right. And of course, we were due to meet, Phil, the band and myself, in Jeju, South Korea in August. Terrible shame that had to be called off.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you indicated right at the start of the program, everyone's diary is just emptied, and all of those, great trips that we were looking forward to. I mean, all of our Corey concerts and contests were cancelled. You mentioned all the tours and stuff that you had cancelled. And yes, you're right. We had been invited to, I think we were going to be the first British brass band to play at the International Jeju Festival in South Korea in August. Which is obviously off for the moment. So a real disappointment. But you've been a regular. I mean, you're the artistic director of the festival, Steve. So tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I mean, the festival was due to celebrate its 25th anniversary this August, which is why they wanted something special. And actually, the idea of an incredible band, the world's #1 band, came from the organisers themselves. So they clearly follow the Corey band on YouTube and everything you do. And so it was all set up, everything except buying plane tickets and discussing program. And then, I was there in January, and the buzz about, the Corey band coming to little Jeju Island off the south coast of South Korea was palpable. And then as soon as February hit, and they started saying, we're not sure what's going to happen, and then it's going to be downscaling, and then all of a sudden no international guests whatsoever. But they're still holding a little Jeju only festival now. But hopefully, fingers crossed, next year we can have the celebrations, and hopefully they can invite you guys again. It would be great.
Maybe we can send them a video this year of our distance performance.
Yeah.
Good idea.
So we've got another video this time, Roger, with you playing a duet with yourself. Could you introduce this for us?
Well, this is a piece I came across shortly after I'd been to Finland with you, actually, Steve, to the Lieksa Festival. And we met a French horn player and a jazz alphornist, as he described himself, a guy called Arkady Shilklopper. When I've told other students that, they always say, you're just making that name up. No, well, I'm really not. He's a stunning musician. He's quite a unique character. Well, that's a good way of describing him. Quite wacky, but really brilliant musician. And he wrote this piece as a duet for himself and Sergei Nakaryakov.
Video that was, Roger. Thank you very much. Tell us a bit more about that, the mini French horn, the corno de caccia, you called it.
Yes, horn of the chase. It used to be really popular. There are still some soloists out there that use it. This one's a B-flat one. You get them in various keys like you would do cornets and trumpets. It wasn't really working too well until the people at the Buffet factory in Germany sort of renovated it a little bit and got it back into working order. And so I use it occasionally. I let my students use it also. It's great for things like the Neruda trumpet concerto. That's the original instrument that it was designed for, pieces like that. So it's absolutely fine. I have used it in concerts, but people spend the first 2 minutes laughing rather than listening. and just looking at your instrument. So yeah, mind you, I play a cornet. People do that anyway.
That's very good. Anyway, very good. So, what about you, Steve? Have you been involved in any creative video making in this period?
Yeah, quite a few. Right at the beginning, actually, I got a message from Bastien Baume about doing a quartet version of the Song for Health, you know, that ensemble video that was going around, lots of people. And as we were doing that, I think, you know, there were so many great Besson artists in Europe, and I started drawing a list, and when I got to 16, I thought, my goodness, let's do that. So the first one we did was a really beautiful slow one called Set Me as a Seal, and that was really popular. And then I thought, okay, let's do something that really is going to stretch not only the group but my video making techniques. So I put a video where we seemed to be playing in a virtual and empty Royal Albert Hall, which was great fun to do. Everyone really enjoyed it. We had a fabulous group, I think 24 people in the second video in this one. And so we got a little clip here where we approach the Royal Albert Hall, and suddenly there they are sitting in boxes around the hall. So it's a lot of fun, and the players were absolutely brilliant, you know, submitting their videos and really had to practice for it too.
Great. Well, lots of fantastic valve work there from all those star euphonium players in the virtual Royal Albert Hall. So yeah, it's definitely had its drawbacks, the lockdown, but in terms of musical creativity, it has really helped people to find new angles to things and get lots and lots of imaginative things out there. And I guess for the time being, that will need to continue. So we come to the time of the evening now where we turn to our special guest, and I'm delighted to be joined by the Corey Band principal cornet player, Tom Hutchinson. Good evening again, Tom.
Hi, Phil. Again.
Again, yeah, here we are. So we're going to talk to you at greater length now, really, but tell us about more about the lockdown and how it's kind of impacted on your practice regime, which I know was, you know, pretty tight at times, but you said you've got more time now, so are you practicing different things, and how are you managing it?
Well, I'm still teaching online for 3 or 4 days a week, so I'm still managing to play throughout the day with my students as well. Obviously, it's not quite the same when you're not in the room with them, but there is when I first moved down to Korea, I should say, I had a normal job, so to speak. I worked for Admiral Car Insurance, so 9 hours of the day I couldn't do any practice at all. And then as I started to move into more teaching and less insurance, and eventually giving it up in 2015, I found that I was playing throughout the day, even when I was teaching. So I found that was really, really helpful. But I mean, in this lockdown period, it's motivation, I think, is the key word. I think you have to find the motivation to keep going. My motivation is not losing my seat at Corey. I know that we've got some terrific young players in the band. I mean, Hannah Plumridge, Harvey Reese, Gareth Johnson, Owain Yeston. We've got some really, really superb players. So they keep me on my toes. So really my motivation is not losing the seat that I'm in. But it is a balance. It is a real fine balance between practicing the good things that are going to help you improve and maintain those areas of skill sets, but also having a lot of fun. We all play music because we enjoy it, and we we enjoy playing in groups and ensembles, and when that's taken away from us, it's really difficult. I always find when I teach students, whether it be in primary school, secondary school, if they haven't got an ensemble to play in, it's very, very difficult to get them to practice, because the end goal is to play with other people generally. So yeah, I've been trying to mix my practice routine between the basics. I have a little sort of condensed album called Tom's Traveling Tutor, which just maybe picks 4 or 5 different exercises from each area that we all need to focus on as brass players, whether it be double tonguing, flexibility, dexterity, literally everything. That might take me about half an hour to do. And then after that, I'll pick a solo, perhaps every 4 or 5 days. I have a big box of solos in the shelf behind me, which some of the solos I haven't touched before. So it's actually quite refreshing to pick something that maybe I've had in there for quite a few years, that was maybe too hard a couple of years ago, and really test myself. One of my favorite pieces is Wilfried Heaton's Sinfonia Concertante, and it's a monstrous piece. It's 26 minutes long with no rest, and I think, to my knowledge, the only person that I've heard play. I don't know if you've played it, Roger. You know,
horrible.
It's a real pig of a piece, isn't it? So I've been picking a couple of pages a week to learn from that. But yeah, one thing that I would say though is that if you were to just maybe play solos or just play the stuff that you want to do all the time, I kind of relate it to eating junk food. If you ate McDonald's every day for 2 weeks, then your body would turn around after, and it would just tell you that this isn't good for you. And it's the same with bad practice, really. If you get into the habit of practicing badly and don't do some of the good stuff, then you will feel you won't benefit from it, and your body will, and your chops will turn around and say, do you know what, I need some long notes, I need some flexibility exercises, some speed exercises. So it is a real fine balance, but yeah, I'm using this opportunity to work on a few other projects as well, not just playing. I was speaking to a friend, I'm going to name drop, but Phil Cobb the other day, and he said he was picking up the guitar. He started to learn the guitar, and a couple of my friends have done that actually. But yeah, for me, it's really, as I said earlier in this chat, it's about maintaining kind of the skill set that I do have, and I'm almost afraid to lose that. So my motivation is to maintain my seat in Corey, but also not to lose any progress that I've made over the past 22 years.
Yeah, I think you're a very self-motivated person, and obviously I think that anyone who sits in the principal cornet chair of one of our top bands has to be self-motivated almost by definition, really. And of course, once we get back to band time, I'll re-audition all the cornets, and I'll tell you whether you've kept your seat or not.
I think we do the same with conductors.
We could even open up a guitar slot for Phil Cobb if he wanted to join. So we'll just see what's happening. Yeah. But what I mean, in relation to maybe some of your pupils that you're teaching, and have you got any maybe tips for people who aren't perhaps quite as self-motivated as you? Anything that you can tell, or that you've got in your experience with your students, that maybe some of the smaller goals that people can kind of work towards whilst there isn't band? Because I know when people are at band, that weekly or twice weekly rehearsal is something that really kind of focuses them. But in the absence of that, and for someone who is lacking that self-motivation, what would your advice be?
Yeah, it's tricky. The Arband isn't for everyone. Of course, I refer to the Arband as in the general exercises books that we use, but it isn't for everyone. One thing I've always looked to do since literally when I first started playing, probably the age of 10, is to set myself small targets, whether that be to learn a solo from memory, or to learn a new piece of music. So I would suggest perhaps if for some of the youngsters that I teach at the moment, it's quite easy for them because they have got exams coming up, they have got grades, or my students at college, they've had to hand their final performances in this week, so they've had things to keep on top of. But for those of you that haven't got exams or haven't got anything in the pipeline, this is a great opportunity to set yourself a new challenge. And it could be, as I said, maybe to get to the end of a 16-bar phrase in one breath. It could be to learn a new piece of music. It could be to try and memorize a new piece of music, or simply just learn another instrument. But I think it's important to have some kind of target to work towards. Otherwise, why do we do it, I guess?
So just in case people don't know, Tom, where did you start playing your instrument? I mean, which part of the world do you originate from?
So I come from Sheffield, I come from a little village called Stannington, and I started off playing with the Stannington Brass Band. My dad was a member of the band, so it was kind of natural for me to go to them. And yeah, I still really value my roots. I was really lucky to have some brilliant people around me at such a young age, and some brilliant brass bands. Barnsley Building Society was my band after Rothwell Temperance, before moving to Black Dyke, and then on to Corey. So I was really lucky to have been given some wonderful opportunities. I mean, if I think back, I think I was principal with Barnsley Building Society at the age of 13, which is, looking back, I can't actually believe they gave me that chance. But this is something that I'll always take forward now.
I believe we have a photograph from your early years, Tom. What can you say about this, apart from very interesting curtains in the background?
Well, this was taken at the Lomas Hall, and the Lomas Hall, I think most bands will have a regular concert, a usual venue every single year that they always play. The Lomas Hall was a venue in the middle of Stannington. I think I went to Scouts there, and I did all my youth club there. We played the concerts there, I think 3 times a year as well. So it was a real special venue. I don't know if you've actually played in that hall, Roger. I don't know if Stannington have asked you.
I have played there. Yes. I've had the privilege of visiting Stannington. Some good players come from that area. Really good.
Perfect players. Well, Stannington were a great brass band because they got guest soloists in. So I remember when I was probably 10 or 12 years old, I heard Philip McCann, Harley Quinn Brass came. I think Versatile Brass with Alan Exley. They came to play as well. So even from a young age, I was exposed to these great players that the band would get in. But yeah, there's a lot to be said for giving youngsters a chance, and that's really something that I tried to do in Corey, because the new players coming through are the young ones; they're not the old ones.
Were you actually taught by someone at Stannington Band, or did you have a teacher sort of outside the band, or what was the setup there?
I did. I had a guy called Roy Hartley, who was from the Salvation Army. He was an elderly gentleman that passed away probably 3 or 4 years after I started having lessons with him. But yeah, he taught Thomas Osborne, who I think is in the Halle at the moment, and his brother as well, James Osborne. But yeah, once Roy passed away, I went to Richard Marshall in Barnsley's, in Grimethorpe's old band room actually. And I don't know if you remember, Roger, the old porter cabin just behind the
the club. Yes. Oh yes. Spent many good hour in there.
Yeah, I learned some new words every Thursday night as I come out of my lesson, and all the miners are just walking into the pub. But so I had lessons with Richard for I think 5 or 6 years before I went to music college, and it was just so that as I was going to the Royal Northern to study, Richard started to go there as a teacher. So we continued, and of course Roger was there, so I got some of Roger's guidance as well at college. So yeah, I've been well looked after.
I've got a question for you, Tom. What's your expectation when you're playing? Because you're widely seen in all the music world as probably the most consistent in terms of your delivery on stage of any principal cornet that's around. Does that affect your practice and your mentality and approach in preparation at all?
Not really, because that's the first time I've ever heard anyone say that, to be honest, Roger. That's very kind of you, I got to say. But
I fully agree with it. Yes.
Not really. I think that if you practice consistency in your bedroom or wherever you practice, then that breeds consistency when you go on stage. I always tell my students, if you practice mistakes, then you expect to play mistakes. So I don't really listen too much to what people say. I mean, there was a time, I'm sure we've all done it, where you look on 4 bars rest before a competition, or they reckon we're going to win today. But I just blank all of that, and I just try to just try not to think about what's coming up, the great thing about Corey is we only do on stage what we do in the rehearsal room, and that's all I can say about that, really.
Tom's obviously, everyone can see now how kind of laid back and down to earth Tom is, and he really is that as a player. He's one of the top players you'll ever hear, but so kind of relaxed about it. And Tom and I have spoken about this particular incident, but last year at the British Open there was a piece called Dynasty by Peter Graham, which started with just a solo cornet on its own. You'll remember it well, Roger, I'm sure. I think you played that one, didn't you?
I did, yes.
Started just with a very, very quiet top G on the cornet coming in, descending as if from heaven, the score said. And I mean, Tom played it absolutely brilliantly. I'm pretty certain we kind of all took one step towards the trophy just after Tom's first note. But I said to Tom, well, you know, what were you feeling at the time when everyone's expectation and, you know, you've got to pluck that note? And he sort of looked at me and was like, well, I'm pretty good on the top G, so I was just going to play a top G. And it was like, oh, that's absolutely crazy. So just, I think Tom's absolutely right. Is you know, a good tip is just try and blank everything else out and just focus on, you know, what you've got in your hands and your own game, and you get there. And Tom's a fantastic example of doing that, of course. I mean, I was going to ask you as well, Tom, and I've never asked you this before, but I mean, you've told us about your progress through various bands on Principal Cornet and what have you, and I know you're one of the most modest musicians I've ever come across as well. But from what age did you realise that this was something you were really good at?
I don't know. I've never, and this is the God's honest truth, I've never really thought that I was particularly good. I guess that I still don't. I look at people like Roger, and you know, these are my idols: Richard Marshall, David Dawes, and you know, I never really ever put myself in the same kind of league as these guys, because these guys have been doing it for so long, and there's still so much that I want to learn and so much that I want to get better with. So yeah, I guess that, you know, when Corey perhaps started to win major trophies, when I was with the band, then you can maybe look at it and think, okay, I'm fortunate to be in a good position here. But yeah, I just try to blank everything out like that, and I just try and play, really. Just one thing Richard always said to me, and I take this on to all of my students, is just let your playing do the talking. Some people can tell you how high they can play and how loud and how fast they can play, but generally they can't. So just let your playing do it, and other people will tell you whether you can or not.
We've got a little montage from the CD you made 2018, This Way, the Paragon and Sonia and Fuego. Wow.
Yeah. Fantastic. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts on those few matters with us, Tom. It's been great to have you as our guest, and I know you're going to stick around for the rest of the chat. Well, best of luck with everything that comes before you. I'm sure there's plenty more years of fantastic performance ahead of you. Now, I wanted to just go back to Steve and Roger for a minute, because obviously you've talked about concerts that you're missing and the performance opportunities, but one of the other important jobs that I know you both do is testing at the Besson factory. So I assume you've not been able to do that for quite some time as well.
No, the last one I did was early February, and I'm not sure exactly when the next one's going to be, Roger. Hopefully within about 6 weeks, depending on flights and quarantine, and because the Besson, the German factory, which is where all the brass instruments are made now, they've been back just over a week. So I wrote to them today, waiting to hear back when we can go there. But we've been doing that. I've been doing that since 2006, and of course before that, Besson testing in Edgware and then Croxley Green, and then Roger, once the production moved from Croxley Green, you were going to France for a few years, and then now Germany, of course.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been testing their instruments, so you can blame me. Yeah, I've been testing their instruments in one factory or another since 1988. I know Steve's been there a long time as well. We're veterans. But yeah, when it moved to France, the cornets and tenor horns moved to Amboise in France, which is a beautiful part of the world, and euphoniums, baritones, tubas, they moved over to Magnerkirchen in Germany. And yeah, we've been going over. But my last one was February as well, Steve. And just waiting for the green light now to start going over again.
Yeah.
And I know I've got a visit planned soon.
So every Besson instrument is tested personally by you and other guys. But can you talk us through exactly what you do on those tests? What's a typical test for either of you?
Well, I have to be clear, we don't test every one. For about 8 or 9 years, we really were there every month, and the quality got so good that now we're there probably 2 months out of 3. So we see a lot of them. Look, obviously there's the cosmetic test. It's got to look as good as it sounds. We have to check that the finish is even, that the valves are really, really great and reliable, and then the play test. So we do everything. And sometimes I could spend 20 minutes with an instrument, and we're usually there, Roger, about 5 hours, and get everything done. Talk to the factory, give them any feedback. And we just test them as if we're actually paying our own money for it. And that's the test that I think we should do every time, is that, these are top of the range instruments. These are from a top brand with a great heritage. So we've just got to make sure they're the best that they can possibly be. And I think, Tom, I hear that you may be going with Roger to the factory in Germany soon to test another little variation on the cornet that may be coming out. So it'd be great for you to see the factory and maybe play for the workers. They absolutely love it when the musicians go in and play. They all.
I remember when I first went to Amboise, we went to the factory there, and I think we ended up playing to a couple of the guys in the factory. But yeah, it was like Roger said, it's a real privilege just for me to go and see how the instruments are made. But then it isn't, to go into the factory and to speak to all the workers is going to be a real pleasure.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll love to meet you out there. This weekend, I have to make a video of these 3 instruments here. This is the brand new Prodigy range of intermediate instruments from Besson. They've been given a makeover, and I had a quick play. I've been away this week, and they play absolutely fantastically. I mean, really light, easy responding instruments, and still have the Besson sound. So there'll be a video coming out, and Roger, I believe you're going to do one for the cornets, which
yeah, absolutely. We're doing intermediate, the Protege range of cornets, trumpets, flutes, that sort of thing. They've got a full range of instruments out, and I've got to say, I was a little bit worried when I tested it because the case looks great. I was thinking of taking the case anyway, Case looks very good. The package it comes in, it's all great. But the instrument itself, I couldn't fault it. It looked great and it sounded good. Once I'd oiled the valves, obviously, it had been in transit for a while because of the current situation. But yeah, beautiful little instruments, really good.
Great. So we can look forward to some more creative videos then using the Prodigy new range of Besson student instruments. Fantastic.
Yes.
Now, one of the features of these Besson Fridays at home is interaction with the viewers. So I understand, Steve, that we've already had a couple of questions in from viewers. So let's have a look in the post bag. What have we got this week?
Yes, we have. So we've got a question from Robert Tanner, who's in Manchester. And this was a question for Tom. The other one is for you, Phil. How do you make sure that your lip is in best condition for a concert and especially for a contest? Best condition.
I think everyone's different. You all know what it takes individually to get your lip into the best position possible. Rhys Owens, for example, who's at the Liverpool Bill, he always takes a day off before he plays. I can't do that. I've got to make sure I'm playing. But I think resting is a really important part of playing a brass instrument, to be able to rest your muscles. So, if I'm playing at maybe 7 p.m. in the evening on a Saturday, then I'll try and practice at 7 p.m. on the Friday, so I'll give myself plenty of time for my lips to recover. But yeah, I mean, the last thing you want to do is, night before a concert is be playing for 2 or 3 hours, because you're going to wake up with pretty bruised lips. So I always tell people, it's funny how when the night before a contest, we always warm down. We never usually do that after a rehearsal, because we want our lips to be in the best condition, for the next day. But yeah, it's really just allowing enough rest time between the last time I've practiced and certainly when I've got to play. Too much, of course, and then you lose everything. So yeah, there's got to be a fine balance.
Yeah, knowing when to rest is one of the most important skills a brass player has to learn, and usually, they learn by their mistakes.
Always.
Phil, the other question is from Alison White in Cornwall. Philip Harper, what are you missing most about the lockdown? We probably know that.
I mean, I hinted at that earlier, but I mean, like every musician, really, what I'm missing most is the contact with other human beings and other human being musicians, really. As I said, with doing the distance videos, it brings it home to you how important it is as a musician to actually use your ears and listen to the other players, because of course, once that facility's taken away from you, you just can't get that kind of extra sheen of quality that we would usually be used to. So that's the simple answer for me, is what I'm missing most is just that contact with the other musicians in the same room as you, and just the buzz of creating live music together and being appreciated by an audience. Sadly, I don't think it's going to be happening for quite some time. But nevertheless, when it does happen, then I'll be one happy man for sure.
So a few people have been asking about any extra things that we've been doing during the lockdown. We've had Roger's DIY confessions, but what about sports? Any of us been doing anything physical? We're getting to the end of our chat, so it'd be really nice to know whether we've been doing anything new. Phil?
Well, actually, I've been doing something which I think you've been doing as well, Steve, which is that in my garden, I've set up an ad hoc badminton court, and I and my daughter and my son have been playing a lot of badminton. So just 2 garden chairs with a clothesline across the top, quite tight.
Great.
And in amongst all the trees and what have you, we practice our forehands and backhands, and we've been doing that almost every day when the weather's good.
Tom, any exercise?
Yeah, I've been doing quite a bit of cycling. I live not far from Barry, so we're quite near the coast. I've got a beach which is a 5-minute drive away, a 20-minute bike ride away. But I live with Ailsa Russell, who's the solo horn of Corey, and she's recently just taken up roller skating. So if you can imagine Ailsa on a roller skates around Barry Island, I mean, that's pretty much how it is. She thinks she's in Miami Beach. So I haven't been roller skating, of course, I got to say. But yeah, so I've been doing a lot of bike riding, and I'm a keen golfer. I play usually at least once or twice a week. So I've not swung a club for 12 weeks almost. So it's pretty tough. But I've got my cornet, of course, so that keeps me busy.
So Roger, any sporting confessions?
Well, no sport. Oh no, no. When I visited my son, when we were allowed to do that in lockdown, I did kick a football, but it wasn't meant with any sort of skill or anything. I didn't want to do it. Sport, running. I was going to go for lots of walk, but my wife developed a bad back about 4 weeks ago, helping me garden. So my excuse is if she's not walking or running anywhere, then I'm not.
Well, that's excellent. Well, if I could say then, thank you very much indeed, gentlemen, for being here on the first Besson Friday at Home. It's been a great pleasure, particularly thanks to Tom for being our special guest this week. It's been a real privilege to have you with us and to share some moments with you and talking about various things, Tom. So thank you very much indeed for that. And thanks to Steve and Roger, who will be joining me again with another special guest in a fortnight's time. I hope you've enjoyed watching. Please do get involved, so send your questions in and we'll do our best to interact with you and answer your questions for next time. So until we see you again on Besson Fridays at Home, from me, it's goodbye.
Bye from Steve, and it's goodbye from me, and thank you very much, Phil, for that. Brilliant.
Take care, everyone. Take care.